Hello and welcome to another podcast from Odell Technology. Today we're very fortunate to be joined by Ana Ribeiro, the AI Imaging Transformation Lead at the Marsden. Hello, Ana.
Hello, nice to be here, Stephen. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely a delight. You hold a fascinating role inside the NHS, one of a very few people who are actually doing something, I think, constructively with AI imaging. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing inside the NHS, please?
Yes, sure. I think there's a growing now number of transformation leads across the NHS, but yes, my role is particular. I think interesting in terms of AI and imaging. So my background is actually in imaging. So I was a nuclear medicine technologist for a number of years. I worked clinically for over 10 years, and then I moved into a more research role and then into leadership and management in research. So I have done a master's in clinical research at City University for a while, and then that allowed me then to progress into management and leadership. At that time, then the AI imaging hub at the Royal Marsden was created, and this was the perfect opportunity to put my clinical skills and the research skills into the setting. So the Royal Marsden is a leading hospital in cancer in the south of England, and particularly in imaging, we're very lucky to have state-of-the-art machines, and we're very dedicated to imaging and research, and I think this is the place that nurtures a lot of people like myself and my colleagues who work in imaging, and therefore it has created the right environment for us to have an AI imaging hub in cancer. So that is the niche area where we come into the NHS. We see a lot of patients through the doors. We conduct a lot of research that sometimes is not visible to the public, but in the background, there's us collecting the data and doing a lot of interesting projects in imaging.
And the Imaging Hub came about through the National Institute of Health Research financing, and also, I think, with Biomed.
Yes, so we had a wealth of, we had some projects in imaging and AI, but at the time back in 2021, we didn't have all the infrastructure and all the staff that was needed to further develop our portfolio of projects and research. So we had funding from the NIHR BRC, Biomedical Research Center, together with some funding from the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, and together we had funding for a number of years. So that obviously funded my position alongside other positions. So currently in the AI Hub, we have three main infrastructures: a clinical infrastructure, where we have an AI consultant and a number of clinical fellows. We also have a clinical trials infrastructure, and it supports a trial manager, a trial coordinator, a project manager, and future data coordinator. And we also have the data infrastructure, where we have the radiomics leads, the data scientists, we have a machine learning for imaging lead as well. So it's mainly composed of three main infrastructures, and all the team works together to make the research happen. So we all play a crucial role in the life cycle of research in imaging.
I know from my visits to the Royal Marsden that you actually have one of the best EHR, electronic healthcare records in the country. And can you tell us something about how that helps with the research?
Yes, so we are very fortunate that we have digital health records for a number of years. So actually our data sets go back quite a number of years, and it's not structured in the way that we would like it to be structured in terms of research. And so data curation is often one of the hurdles we have to pass by to get access to good quality data, but we are very fortunate to have. And there's a vast amount of data that we now have and are able to access and going back. So a lot of the imaging and a lot of AI development is done on retrospective data, and therefore it allows us to collect, obviously in our case, the imaging data, but also to correlate with clinical data that we have from different disease groups within the Marsden from the patients we see.
And you do a lot of work with the Institute of Cancer Research, I understand.
Yes, so they are our academic partners. So we have all our data scientists are basically both at the Royal Marsden and the ICR. So we work in very close collaboration. So the team actually in imaging, in the same building, we have people from the ICR, from the Marsden, and is very mixed. And the same happens across other units within the hospital. So other units within drug discovery also have the same level and the same staff mix group together. So we actually see each other as one big team. But yes, we work very closely, but for us is we are one big team.
Absolutely. So, Anna, I was wondering if you could explain eye-to-eye funding and how that works inside the Marsden.
So one of the largest funders in the UK is the National Institute for Health Research, and a lot of the funding we have in the AI Hub comes from the NHS, the NIHR, and so far they have funded two of the largest projects we had in AI. So we're very fortunate to have access to the funding, and it not only allows to fund the staff, but it also allows us to further develop our relationships with other companies and collaborators to develop, because the NHS in itself at the moment doesn't have the capacity or the expertise to lead on everything. So it does allow us to bring the mix of the wealth and the knowledge for both parts. So it has been crucial for some of the highlights and our major projects, yes.
So I think some of the major projects would include the prostate cancer work that you're doing with AI. And I know that you've got some interesting partners involved in that, and please feel free to mention.
Yes, so we have a collaboration with a company, they're called Mint Medical, and together we developed from almost a proof of concept to real world implementation in the NHS. So we have developed a tool that is for advanced prostate cancer patients that monitors disease. So from imaging, particularly from whole body MRI, which is a particular type of MRI scan, we're able to assess treatment response for patients with advanced metastatic disease, so cancer in the bones. It has been a successful partnership, and we have now two NIHR funded projects, and we're about to roll out the technology and the software in other NHS sites. So this was obviously possible due to the funding from the NIHR. And I think there was obviously we had a lot of obstacles or hurdles to cross because we were new to the extent of obviously developing a software in the NHS with the NHS for the NHS, but also it was crucial for us to have a partner who we could collaborate with, who had the same vision. And I think in terms even of clinical investigations for imaging studies were quite novel because you don't see that many happening. And I think even the point of rolling it out to the NHS, obviously we had a lot of learning curves. It's still done within a research context, so we're rolling it out within a research context. So, but we hope to have the evidence later and to collect the evidence to prove that the tool is effective, and it will be hopefully meet the standards for NICE approval in the future.
You're working with 7 NHS trusts on this project?
Yes, well, 7 and plus. So we obviously are trying to engage with as many as possible, but one of the possible limitations is not only the availability of the technology and the availability of scanner time for trusts to be able to obviously offer that technology. This is obviously an imaging technique that is already available in some of the, in some trusts in the UK. Not all, though, so there's a lot of work to be done in rolling out the technology to others of this particular MRI technique, but also in terms of the resources. So clinical trials, particularly in imaging, are still quite rare, and they involved a lot more staff and a wide, broad range of stuff, especially when you're rolling out a technology. And you have to involve not only with the imaging department, you have to have information governance, you have to have the clinical teams who are going to see the patients, but also the IT infrastructure behind it to support the implementation of the technology. So there's a long list of stakeholders with who we need to engage. And given the times and a post-COVID time, resources are scarce. And this is obviously funded an academic study, so its funding is limited. And in terms of rolling it out to a large number of NHS, it does add complexity with the number of sites you want to add. So obviously there is almost a pre-selection to the sites who would be able to perform a certain number of examinations for it to be a viable partner into the study.
Anna, I'm aware that you're being funded by a Horizon 2020 EU project. Can you tell the audience more about that?
Yeah, so Horizon 2020, this particular project is called ProCancer. So is aiming to be one of the largest repositories for imaging and clinical data in prostate cancer. So we are one of 20 partners, so is a large collaboration across EU. We are the only UK partner, and we are one of the clinical partners. So mainly, our role in this project is to curate and share clinical data and imaging data. And the aim of this project is to create a large repository where AI models can be developed. That also can be done by our technical partners. So there's a mix of partners within the group, both clinical, technical, and legal partners as well. We are now on the third year of the project, drawing almost to a conclusion, and we are now exploring ways of maintaining the sustainability of the program and the project, because so the aim of the project is essentially to be the largest repository of imaging in cancer, in prostate cancer. And not only our technical partners will develop the AI models, but we will also be able to hopefully share some of the data for others to access the repository. So we have contributed so far with about 600 cases. And so other hospitals obviously have various degrees of different types of imaging modalities and different types of clinical data.
I understand you're doing work on myeloma.
Yes, so again, we have a sub-study, is an imaging sub-study that is led by us in the Marsden, and the main study is funded by pharma, is actually managed by Leeds University. And this project was, our lead role in the project was actually to roll out a standardized whole body MRI protocol in myeloma across 12 sites in the UK, which was successful. Not only we delivered the protocol, but also we delivered the training for the radiographers and the radiologists in reading the examinations. And we have collected and curated the cases. So we are towards the end of our role in involvement in that. Obviously, the study is still ongoing and monitoring patients. And we will be evaluating the images, but I think it has been a success in terms of we've been able to demonstrate that we can standardize protocols across different vendors, across the three major players in scanners, in MRI, and we've been able to have good quality imaging of rolling out our standardized protocol and actually delivering training. So whole body MRI in multiple myeloma is actually recommended by NICE, but is not yet adopted at the majority of the UK. So patients are still receiving X-rays for diagnostic purposes, which is something we have a team, and Professor Messio at the Marsden is a strong advocate and works closely with Myeloma UK to promote the rollout of the technology. And I think our role in training and developing radiologists and radiographers has been excellent.
So Anna, I know the Marsden also does a lot of promoting of education and fostering of radiology talent. Can you tell me something about that?
Yes, so both our radiographers and our radiologists are actually delivering a lot of training, both nationally and internationally. I think our radiologist program in training in whole body MRI has now exceeded a number about 350 radiologists in terms of delivering training. and also our radiographers. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a clinical infrastructure, which also has research radiographers, which is a relatively new role in the NHS. So these are radiographers who work both clinically and also in research. So they have protected time for research. And part of their role is actually also to deliver some education to other radiographers who may or may not have the protected time, but who also would like to expand on the research skills. So they have taken part in some study days at universities. They're actually rolling out an AI for radiographers study day soon. And again, this is for entry level in terms of radiographers, but that's an excellent opportunity. And also internally as well is promoting what we do, because we work very closely with a clinical unit, and sometimes it's quite hard for the clinical staff who are doing day in day out and scanning to understand what is the value that we bring in terms of research, and actually how their work is so crucial, because if a scan is not acquired properly, then is of no value. And to us, this is the first step, is the patient contact, is making sure that the protocol is acquired correctly, that all the information that we need to collect extra is also collected. They also consent patients when we need them to, for depending on the type of study and clinical investigation we run. So I think it's very important to work closely with a clinical department, which is something that we don't live outside them, and we work in a close working relationship with them. And I think sometimes it's good to have the bridge of the people who work on both sides and understand both needs. So they understand why, when we make so many requests and additional requests and additional information. So I think our radiographers are a powerful tool, and it is actually a good voice to have. And I wish more NHS trusts were to promote that, because that would definitely help in raising the flag for imaging in research.
So, Anna, I think you're on a remarkable career path. What is it that young people even my age, would have to do to be in a position like yours?
So I think I'm a strong believer in education. I think we should all try. Education to me is the foundation. So I think I'm only in this position today because I paved the way. I think having worked clinically is a huge asset, because I can understand the clinical side. I can understand how they work and what they need. But also having gone to do further education in terms of research has given me the foundations to understand how governance works. Also, some of the data knowledge and AI. I am not the expert in AI. I do not, I barely touch on Python, but I understand the basics to be able to translate that to people who don't, to both the patients, but also other healthcare professionals and other doctors who have an idea. So I think it's important to understand a little bit of everything. As I said, I have done a master's in clinical research. I am currently doing a PhD. And I think continuously challenging yourself is the way to go. And putting yourself forward to challenges. I think that's my motto. I never say no, which probably could go both ways. But I think sometimes I see colleagues, and same as with radiographers and also nuclear medicine technologists and other healthcare professionals, who see themselves possibly stuck to a clinical role. That hasn't got to be the case. We have a huge skills in terms of managing our time, managing the workload, having the patient skills, and understanding the clinical pathway. So I have a lot of colleagues who went on to have managerial positions, and that is good. And I think there is also something outside of that. So I think with the right skills, one of our research radiographers is actually very interesting in becoming a data analyst, for example. So that's, again, could be a changing career, because they have both the knowledge on the clinical side, but also then the data side of things. And I think that is where the NHS should put their money in, is in educating the existing workforce, because I think we have a huge amount of skills within the NHS, and I think if we nurture the staff, I think that is, data will become the center of our lives, and if we know how to explore that and maximize that, we can optimize our workflows, either being for time management in terms of scanner optimization, but also in terms of managing patient workflow. Everything will be automated. So I think AI will not take over the world, but I think it will change dramatically. And I think our relationship with patients, we possibly, hopefully, will have more time to be with patients, but also we have to become more efficient. So naturally, I think some of the opportunities came with the roles I was in and the nature of the projects I was in, but I think education was a key player for me, definitely. And I think continuous professional development is key to evolving and progressing within the NHS. And I don't think becoming a operational manager is the only route for healthcare professionals who want to progress further. I think there are more options, and I think we are seeing more of examples of that, and I think we will see more now with more AI and data roles being embedded into the NHS.
I have enjoyed our meeting, thoroughly enjoyed our meeting. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
And I look forward to talking to you again in another 6 months as these trials unfold and we get to meet again. So I wish you all the very best, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you.